And welcome back to another session of Pellet Tech 101. Today I have the GMG Davy Crockett here, and I'm going to show you how we go ahead and replace the igniter in this particular unit. So we're going to be going through an igniter replacement and reinstall. So as you can see, I've already pulled off the hopper of the unit. We have previous videos that will show you how to pull off that hopper, but the control board, essentially, the control board here is pulled out first. Makes things a lot easier while we're removing that hopper. That allows us to only need to basically remove the connectors that are going to the 12 volt outlet inside of the unit. Just makes it a lot easier to be able to pull off that hopper. We have 4 bolts on either side and that hopper comes off. So once we have the hopper off right here, we're exposing all of our wires that we have to the unit. And our igniter right here has the special coating, goes into the auger feed cavity and into the center of the grill. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, is the proper removal of the igniter right here. So I know that you guys can't see inside of the grill right now, but basically I've just removed the grates that are in there, the grease tray or the grease baffle, and then the fire baffle that sits right over the fire pot. So that just leaves us exposed just right over the burn pot right there. So now that I have all of that out, and again I have my hopper and everything disassembled, I'm ready to go ahead and start the process for replacing the igniter. So the igniter wires themselves, the electrical connection for it are just bullet point or bullet connectors, we call them. So these can easily just pull apart, or a lot of times I'll grab 2 pairs of pliers and pull these apart. I did have one of the bullet connectors break on me as I was disconnecting before, so I had to get a replacement bullet connector. So this one might look a little different than the one that's in your unit. But sometimes when pulling it apart, things like that can happen. So very simple bullet connector picked up from any hardware store. But now that our electrical is disconnected, these are our igniter wires. So the igniter has a small plastic plug right here that kind of feeds into that chamber. So what I found is kind of a combination of a flathead screwdriver and a pliers to pull that out properly. So usually what I do is I kind of get my flathead just right between there a little bit and start to pry that little plastic piece out. And as soon as I have it kind of started, I can then grab it with the pliers. Alright, just like that. And get a nice grip on it here with the pliers. Just kind of wiggle it. And this is just a 2-part piece. So we're going to keep that to the side, but this is kind of our, what I like to call like a plug or a grommet here that seals up the hole where the igniters go. Now technically at this point the igniter wires are loose, and I could technically pull out the igniter from the firebox area, and I'll show you that in just a second. But what I find on the Davy Crockett anyway, especially when putting the igniter back in, you're going to want to have this combustion fan removed right here. It just makes it a lot easier to be able to access the wires as they come through that channel, and to be able to allow them to navigate out the hole right here. So we're going to go ahead and pull off the combustion fan just down below. We do have a detailed video on replacement of that combustion fan. But yeah, I'm just going to basically dive into it here. So the combustion fan has 4 Phillips screws that hold it in. They're recessed through, so you're going to need this is a Phillips or a flathead will work. But the key is that you have a very thin, long shaft so that it can go through that first hole like that. And we can pull those screws right out. Same thing here. Initially I stripped out a few of the screws, and so I had to go pick up some replacement screws that were that same metric thread. So again, these are technically number 2 Phillips screws, but at least at my local hardware store I was only able to find a number 1 Phillips with this skinny of a shaft. So again, I ended up stripping them out a little bit. Since then, I have picked up a flathead with that same thin shaft. And the flathead seems to do a better job at kind of grabbing those edges around the bolt so that we don't strip those out. Grab this guy from either side. And again, I really find, when you need to do service on the Davy Crockett, having it up on a cart like this just makes your life so much easier, especially as you need to get to these rear screws. Just really makes it a lot easier than if the grill is on the ground. So my recommendation when you need to do service on the grill is to get it up on a cart like this. So now the combustion fan is technically off. I could disconnect the bullet wires to this, or I can just kind of set that right underneath there, which is what I'm going to do. So now this whole cavity right here is open. I can feel the igniter wires right here running through the cavity. It makes it so much easier as I go to put the new igniter back in. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm basically going to remove the fire pot from the inside of the unit right there. So I've discovered that it's a 7mm bolt. There's 4 bolts that hold that fire pot in. So grab my wrench here, loosen them up in each corner, pull them out. And our last one. Alright. So now the fire pot is loose inside there, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the fire pot forward with my hand. So you can actually, the fire pot itself will push forward, and then I'm going to lift it up at an angle to be able to pull this out. So at the same time as I lift this up, I'm kind of using my other hand right here to feed the wires so they're not binding. And the igniter is going to come out with the entire burn pot. Looks something like this. So the igniter itself is going to come through the burn pot right here. Again, I'm just gentle, I'm not forcing anything. We'll get our wire leads to come all the way through. Just like that, and the igniter is out. So that's your igniter element right there. So again, there's not necessarily a set screw or something that holds this inside of the fire pot. And once we're placing this back in there, I'll show you. So initially it's going to be loose until we make our connections and put that plug back in there. And again, we just want to make sure that this edge is seating properly inside the burn pot. So as I get my replacement igniter, I'm going to again start with the fire pot first. So I am going to feed that through, just like that. And again, in here right now, the igniter sits. It's still loose. I'm just going to have it like this for right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the burn pot set back in. So same thing, we're just going to channel our wires back, and then we're dropping it at an angle. So just like that, dropping it down, and the hole, there's a little hole where the auger shaft kind of goes through, and it's tight. So I'm just going to spin around to this other side right here. So I find the process again is just a nice gentle wiggle, and then you're going to just line up the fire pot holes with the holes that are in that chamber. So it looks like we're all lined up here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten those down. Just going to start on my hand. Again, the igniter inside there right now is just loose. You can see the wires kind of poking out by where the combustion fan was. So I'm just going to kind of hand turn the screws in each corner. We're going to shift this back side a little bit, so it's important to leave them loose and not tighten them up right away, just so you can line up the holes and make sure that we're not cross-threading. These all do have little washers on them, so it's important that the little washers are in place. So again, I'm just going to grab the 7mm here and tighten those up. Alright. And these I do want to have fairly snug. I mean, I don't need a wrench on them, but you know, I do want to have these bolts nice and snug inside there like that. So now that our fire pot is put back into place, we can again feed this igniter wire a little hole right here. Our wires come through, and at this point I'm going to grab my other hand and I'm going to reach inside the burn pot, and I'm just going to make sure that that igniter is butted up right against the wall, which it is. So we've pulled all the slack. So at this point I'm going to hold this so I keep that tension, I keep that slack, and I'm going to reinsert this this plug. So one edge is open, so I'm just going to first put the bigger half around the cord like that. Just like that. I'm going to slide it back as far as I can before I start to push this in. So it is tight. First couple times I had to do this, I had to squeeze it down with the pliers. Just like that, that plug is back in there. I'm going to double check inside here, make sure that that's still nice and tight. Great, which it is. So again, important to be keeping that tension on the wires nice and taut while we put this plug back in place. And from here we can go ahead and put our connections back together. As soon as I have those in place, I'll get the combustion fan in place. So we have two blue wires that are coming for the igniter. It does not matter which wire connects to which. I'm just creating continuity here. So nice and tight in those bullet connectors. I give them a little tug, make sure everything's nice and secure, which it is. At this point I'm ready to go ahead and put the combustion fan back in place. So combustion fan, the wires that are coming off the combustion fan are going to be to the right corner right here, and the label side of that fan is going to go up. So just like this, the combustion fan goes back in place. So I'm just going to grab my thin little flathead right here. And once I have them in the hole, I'm just going to place the flathead through that second hole. Hold that in place, line it up underneath there, and then just kind of get that started. So the first one is started. Grab the second one here. Yeah, sometimes you're able to kind of start it by hand, like I was able to with this one, which is nice. Just like that. Again, not tightening it down yet, just getting them in place. And last one. And as you can see, having it up on a cart right here makes all the difference in the world on how efficient I'm able to do this and how stress-free I'm able to do this. So now that we got all of them in, I'm just going to go ahead and snug them up. No need to over tighten on here. Just like that. Just like that. Combustion fan's back in. So at this point, the igniter is replaced. I would be placing the hopper back on at this point. Once I have the hopper in place, then I go ahead and put on the connectors here for the 12-volt outlet. Obviously, make sure that any time that you're working back here with anything electrical or removing that hopper, that there's no power source coming to the unit. That's very important. But yeah, basically when I put the hopper back on, I'm going to connect these two, place the hopper, again 2 bolts on either side right here, 10 millimeter. And then from there, I'll go ahead and place the control board back in the unit. And again, we just have the thermal probe, or thermal sensing probe right here that has a clip that goes into one spot, and then we kind of have our main Molex that plugs into place over there. So overall, that is the replacement of a GMG Davy Crockett igniter. I hope this video was helpful for you. Any questions, comments, suggestions, further assistance needed, just leave us a comment in the video right here. We're always happy to help. Make sure everything is 100% and you're out there grilling some great food. We do offer every single part for the Davy Crockett, as well as every accessory for it, and guarantee the best prices. So when you need a replacement part or when you need a cool new accessory for the Davy, check out pellethead.com and see what we have to offer. Other than that, appreciate you joining us for another session of Pellet Tech 101. We'll see you soon.